All right, good evening, guys. What's up, YouTube? I'm here, and it is Friday night. I know many of you have a lot better things to do. Oh, look, I got an update about this video. This is the first time I've gotten an update about one of my videos in a while. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say what's up, and that I just got done. I just got done listening to this whole thing. I tuned in for a little bit. I know I saw Renee, who's here now. I saw her in the live chat. I tuned in for a little bit and caught some of it live while it was happening. I made a couple comments to a couple things and you know, asked some different questions about, you know, some science that's been tried and some of the claims that were made in here. There was a variety of claims. I haven't like made a timestamp for all of them, but I got one right here that's the biggest one that I really want to address and talk about and ask some questions about. But there's another one that she said earlier about like getting these materials, the magnesium and the bismuth, to bond, which I thought was interesting, and I'd like to do some experiments. You know, if anyone's tried, you know, taking a 20-ton press and just tried taking like bismuth and flattening it, and magnesium and flattening them together, and zinc to make like flattened layers of it with a, you know, a hydraulic press. You just get it into discs already, and then you just press them together in a hydraulic press. It seems to me if you press metals together strongly with enough sufficient force, you could get them to bond. So there might be some other explanations for this material that she has. Just trying to be skeptical and scientific about it, not saying, you know, it is what it is. And I just don't like the whole idea about the Army, them giving it to the Army and all the whole backstory behind that. It just sounds fishy to me, and the whole reasons behind it, and how she's just tries to make it sound really straightforward, and tries to reinforce that point that it's just real. She even says at one point in this interview that, oh, it's really straightforward. I got to find that clip and edit some of this stuff together, because I wasn't like keeping timestamps while I watched through the whole thing. But it's interesting what's going on. But the main thing I want you guys to hear that she said and that I wanted to address was this.
Been trying to reach out to scientists. I've been trying to understand it, work with so many, but the people who have the labs to try to build a generator that could match Hal's hypothesis on the terahertz frequency, to my knowledge, nobody in the white world has done it yet. So where does it stop and start? I want to see what this stuff could do, and how I've worked with him so many times, it just seemed natural that if they to the stars, and maybe that's a step. To the Stars got the bismuth magnesium from me in August 5th of 2018. They because Hal wanted to investigate it. So I was on exactly the same agreement. Yeah. It'll come back to me at X, and we did this 2 or 3 times. And by the spring of
so I don't know if you guys caught that
this year.
Oh wait, oh, the audio's not coming through. Hold on, I gotta change this so you guys can hear that again. I'm just gonna go back and play that again.
In the white world,
because you guys couldn't hear that. I'm sorry for people that are just tuning in now. We're
Well,
talking about some of the claims made by Linda Moulton Howe on the theBlackVault, and I was addressing a couple of the science claims of this material, why it was given to the U.S. Army for the Army's lab testing, and why it wasn't given to, you know, an independent lab or MIT or a number of labs, and the reasoning that she gives, that I haven't heard this from Hal, but this is what Linda says that Hal told her, and you know, they work together. So I'm just listening.
Where does it stop and start? I want to see what this stuff could do, and how I've worked with him so many times, it just seemed natural that if they to the stars, and maybe that's a step. To the Stars got the bismuth magnesium from me in August 5th of 2018. They because Hal wanted to investigate it. So I was on exactly the same agreement. Yeah. It'll come back to me at X, and we did this 2 or 3 times.
So they got this material back in August, and then their reasoning why it was about the generation that they couldn't generate. Oh wait, hold up, it's a little bit further back than this. I think it's 3317. So listen to
Have
this.
I don't have a degree. I have been a person trying to reach out to scientists. I've been trying to understand it, work with so many, but the people who have the labs to try to build a generator that could match Hal's hypothesis on the terahertz frequency, to my knowledge, nobody in the white world has done it yet. So
Okay, that was the key
where
point.
do you, but the people who have the
Let's listen again.
labs to try to build a generator that could match Hal's hypothesis on the terahertz frequency, to my knowledge, nobody in the white world has done it yet.
Okay, well, to my knowledge, they have, because a simple Google search found that they are able to use terahertz lasing from intersubband polariton-polariton scattering and asymmetric quantum wells. This guy actually found him on Twitter, and I tagged him in a couple posts, and I'm going to see if he responds. He seems like a lively character who engages in a lot of like educational outreach, so I hope that he's watching this, or he watches this and reaches out to us and helps weigh in on this matter, because this guy's the real expert on this stuff. He's got the lab doing this. But I'll just read you the abstract, and we'll move on to some other examples. But electric dipole transitions between different cavity polariton branches or between dressed atomic states with the exact same excitation number are strictly forbidden in centrosymmetric systems. For doped quantum wells and semiconductor microcavities, the strong coupling between an intersubband transition in the conduction band and a cavity mode produces two branches of intersubband cavity polaritons, whose normal mode energy splitting is tunable and can be in the terahertz region. So they are able to produce tunable terahertz lasers using polaritons. And this is something, polaritons are something that I've talked about quite a bit, and I've raised a large suspicion about why the TTSA and these groups are putting out lies, saying that this we need to go to the army for a generator, a better generator, because no one in the white world has this. Well, these guys have it. They're at the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom. You could have just flown to the UK. Or flown to France, where this laboratory material de et phénoménos quantiques. So it's a quantum material phenomena laboratory, which is probably in France at the University of Paris, maybe, or somewhere nearby. So there's lots of rich academic literature out there that they probably should have checked or looked at, seeing as they had this piece since August of 2018, and they claim that they had to give it to the Army because there's no one in the white world that has terahertz generation that can generate terahertz. No one has terahertz generators yet. These guys have a lab where they're doing terahertz generation, and it's very interesting how it's done. And this is the key core science of I believe of how this technology might work if this is the real deal, truly. But it's really strange that this group TTSA, they have these scientists who come so close, but they don't actually talk about the real physics things, and they leave it out of the picture, because you have to know where to look. If you just look up terahertz and generation and terahertz generators, you get a whole bunch of crap. But you have to know that keyword polariton to throw that in the search term, and then all of a sudden, oh, now I'm finding all kinds of science and related science and technology. So I just want to educate people out there on, some of this stuff. I have a bachelor's degree in physics, so I understand some of this stuff. I've been really deep in the research for about 15 years now, just reading up and staying current with all this stuff. So I have some good insights. Trust me, and don't just turn me off because I disagree with you about Bob Lazar or all some of these other so-called physicists out there talking about anti-gravity and stuff. Because there's a lot of bullshitters. There's a lot of people just selling snake oil and lies, and that's not what I'm here to do. Obviously, I talk about real physicists and real papers, unlike these people who say that they have these sources. Oh, I have this source who's this physicist, but I can't name him or talk about him, who gave me this material and or did this test. And no, I talk about real studies and real physics and stuff. So I encourage you to, look up some of this stuff, and I think more experiments need to be done to figure out, what is this material and how could you make something similar through, known manufacturing processes. Or there's a lot of art people in glass making and art that could probably make something that looks very similar to that, I believe. There's artists that make things out of wax that look just like food in Japan and stuff. So to think that we don't have the technology also, which he said is like the technology to layer that material, to get a material that thin of layers in that terahertz range, that micrometer range, as he was talking about, like thinner than a human hair and stuff. We actually do have the technology. The Egyptians had that technology. And I mentioned that in the thing when she said that. I was like, well, so they did gold leaf. Sorry, the Egyptians knew about how to make gold leaf from pounding. A lot of these artifacts aren't in fact solid gold. They're made of gold leaf. They pounded gold flat with a hammer until it made it almost nearly atomically thin sheets of the metal, where they could then wallpaper stuff with it, essentially. And here's some pictures of ancient Egyptian gold leaf, where they were able to create things on the smaller than a human hair with the diameter of thin film metals. So with very primitive technology, and that's why I say someone out there has got to be able to get creative and make something, and defy some of the things she said about the specifics of that material and its manufacture. They got to be able to figure out ways to make stuff like that. Or maybe it was 3D printed atomically. If we could prove that it's 3D printed atomically, that would be really cool. But or figure out a way to do that scientifically. That I'd be interested in. Also, they have this memorandum that they talked about. There's apparently some other. So here, the wavelength is a very high frequency that takes special equipment to reach. This was from September of 2012. So this was before a lot of the polariton stuff came out. But if they received it, so I understand that if this is some of the stuff going on, because this material's been around since before TTSA, so got a hold of it in August 2018. This material's been around quite a while and has some interesting history, and a lot of other scientists and scientific studies that have been done on this material, or pieces of material. It was a larger piece that was broken into many small pieces and given to different researchers and scientists over the years. So here it is resurfacing again, and a lot of people are complaining that she's just trying to resell this stuff again, and a lot of it is she just makes up stuff, or she's not informed and not educated on the science enough, but she makes these really bold and claims about the science, but they're just not backed up by facts, and the fact is that if you look up polaritons, you'll find plenty of evidence for terahertz frequency generation. In labs well in the white world, not in the, there's labs at universities, probably in a lot of places that could produce this kind of stuff and build something like this. And I don't know how much maybe it would be super expensive, and it's too expensive outside their range, and that's why they need to go to the Army. But it would be helpful if they kind of mentioned this or said something about this, so I'm just doing that for them, because they have not done their duty and due diligence to be forthcoming and with sharing and disclosing of information, especially with relation to the scientific information related to how the technology works. They've been very, it's almost like disinformation. It's strange why they've been so tight-lipped about certain things. They won't let certain search terms and certain things out of the bag. But anyways, polariton condensates, it's a whole branch of condensed matter physics that's really shaking things up, and has been for probably the past almost a decade. I say maybe it did have some dark world research that's related to it, but it's full in the white world and has been for years now. It's just not talked about and not known. You know, it's like real smart people talk about it, and then people don't listen to them because they disagree with other things that they, you know, other things, you know. So whatever. I won't get into that. I want to talk about some of the more interesting stuff. So there was that whole list of studies that was released, and I thought it was interesting that this it wasn't on one of the lists. It's not on one of the lists, but it's on this list, and it's negative mass propulsion. I don't think this is on the Steve Aftergood FOIA. I don't think it is. This is a different list of 38 papers, and this one's blacked out even. But they changed this list. This is I guess someone said this came from George Knapp, that this was given to George Knapp or leaked to him. But it's interesting that the FOIA that came back had a different set of papers, but it was missing this one on negative mass propulsion, which I thought was interesting. And I looked up that patent on negative mass propulsion by F. Winterberg, and he talks about the Schrodinger's analysis of the Dirac equation and the existence of negative masses behind, you know, hidden behind positive masses. That's basically what you're creating with a polariton, Dirac hole. But they're used for propulsion by reducing the inertia of matter, for example, in the limit of microscopic body with zero mass. And that's something else that Linda talked a lot about, was inertial. You know, scientists that have done research on inertial mass cancellation and inertial cancellation, and the technology that really, the science behind the technology that allows them to make those 90-degree turns at breakneck speeds and whatnot, and basically defy what we know as inertia. But anyways, this kind of talks about some of these things, but then it goes off about on a tangent at the end, and talking about the center of the moon as a potential well, and making a tunnel through the moon. He's going to basically use a sequence of thermonuclear shape charges to make a tunnel through the moon, so that he can use the gravity well of the moon. That's what, you know. So it's like real it's almost like this is like classified stuff, but and then they mix in this whole thing about the gravity well being the moon, and not like the skin coatings of these craft that we're all talking about and how those things work. So it's super interesting when I read that why that study was put on the list. Nothing about polaritons is in this list, and all the good stuff on negative mass propulsion and negative mass is when you search for negative mass polaritons instead of just negative mass. And if you add that polariton thing, and you get some of the real key science on how this is actually done and produced in the lab, and labs that are producing it right now. This is the University of Rochester, right in New York. I think it's Buffalo. But anyways, that's another interesting thing I wanted you guys. Oh, and I wanted, before I jump into the quantum radar stuff, I wanted to talk about Bernard Hayes, who is a Lockheed Martin physicist, who's done all that research and all that theory I was talking about on inertia, and that, like, you know, Linda even talks all this about the science that's been done and the theory that's behind inertia, but she won't, like, why doesn't she, like, link to the actual scientists? They're out there, they're in the white world, they're not, this is not black world, you know. This guy, here's this guy's CV, his curriculum vitae, which all physicists should have. If they're a real physicist, ask them for their CV first and foremost. But I'll post this in the live chat. And oh, we got 55 viewers. Someone just gave me $1. Anyone got any? I got some questions. So how do I learn science on the web, and what science are worth learning on? Yeah, so that was cool that Linda, in the end, she kind of said, listen, you guys need to go out and research this stuff and educate yourself on this stuff. That was good that she said that, because that's what really people need to do, and that's what people are doing, and that's what I've been doing for like a while now, is researching this stuff and trying to educate myself as best I can. So I've reached out to quite a number of people who've written some papers and stuff now. I've reached out. I'm starting to reach out to like more PhDs and more like people that are real experts in this stuff, that really know like what they're talking about, that aren't just like people that work in construction like me and spend all their free time and spare time researching physics. and this advanced kind of physics stuff. So there's people that are doing it or stuff related to it that they're not even aware of this material or any kind of like that it could be involved with secret programs. They're not like into that stuff. I probably would say more likely than not they're not into aliens, and as much as Linda Moulton Howe likes aliens and likes to push the alien hypothesis and the alien side of this. Really, it's about the science for me. Whether it's alien or not, that would be cool if it's alien. If that piece was actually manufactured by a an intelligent being from another star system, and they used that craft to get here. I mean, that's cool idea. It's cool to think about, certainly, but I'm not gonna it's really what's cooler is what can we learn from that if it was, and how does this work? And that's what we've really been trying to piece together with the science of it. So yeah, I understand these are graduate level papers. A lot of this stuff is graduate level stuff. So you need to start off with the undergraduate level so you can learn the math foundation and the physics to really get yourself started and learning. So I'll give you guys, if you guys are really interested, I'll give you exactly how and where to find that information for free. And this video will be cool because you can probably go back and reference this stuff, and I'll post the links in the live chat so that they're preserved too. One is the MIT Open Courseware, and so you can find courses. Look at what basically anything that you want to learn about. They have lectures on it that you can look up and watch here, and it's pretty much free. It's open. It's free to the public, so you can get like basically all of everything that they teach at MIT. You can learn for free on here, just watching videos. Of course, you're gonna have to have the time to watch the videos and the patience and kind of like. It's not easy because you have to practice math and really learn it and drill it to get good at it and stuff. So math is a key essential part of physics and something that you're going to have to learn to really dive into some of these papers. So let me show you, for example, gravity and the quantum hypothesis. You'll really have to learn like the history of physics and some of the core science of this stuff. And I think some good places to start is back, start with the math, the core essentials, which I would say is the Feynman lectures. Richard Feynman, he understood physics on a level that really no one in his time did. He died in like 1985, but he was one of the few scientists that I've been researching through the history that have really known. He was recruited out of MIT at age 18 to work on classified programs. He helped build the atomic bomb with Oppenheimer and all these guys. He was one of the lead physicists on that because he was just brilliant. And he's been involved in tons of classified stuff. But he's a real smart and real good teacher. So the Feynman lectures on physics, if you really want to learn physics, it would be a good place. It's a good textbook, but to learn physics from if you want that, and you can probably get it. I have a copy of it free. If you email me, I can send you a link to where you can download it. But it costs quite I don't know, it's like $100 if you want to buy it and stuff. But I think actually someone posted it, a lot of Feynman's lectures and stuff on YouTube too, so you can watch some of his stuff. He's really a master that goes back to give you the core classics. But for math, this Khan Academy is really good for learning math. They have all kinds of math from from basic, a lot of it's geared for children and kids, but you can also learn the core essential things that you need to be a physicist. Let's see, physics core math courses. Well, list. We'll get a list of all the core math courses for like a physics major. You can go on most physics and see their major and see the classes that they have to take. Usually you have to take Calc 1, Calc 2 your first year, and then you work up maybe Calc 3, series, expansions, differential equations. Then you move on to you can take like other core math courses. lots of interesting stuff like group theory. I took combinatorics. I took I think I took DiffEq, advanced DiffEq. So like DiffEq is differential equations. That's basically like what calculus works up to, and understanding that stuff is key to, you know, the kind of physics that you need to analyze quantum problems, which are called Hamiltonians. And yeah, if you understand Hamiltonians, you can understand how to do like calculations with quantum mechanics, and that will get you on your way to basically understanding a lot of the math, quantum mechanics, and then taking some courses in experimental physics, also learning like the list of all the experiments that have been done, and you know, how to properly perform experiments. That's key. That's what I'm in the process of teaching Mark and some of my other colleagues who are setting up our own laboratory with Falcon Space program currently. If you guys know about Falcon Space, you can go to falconspace.org. We will be putting a website together soon. I don't know if it just goes to our YouTube channel right now, but check out the YouTube channel. Check out some of where we're putting more videos up as we build the lab and get more equipment and more stuff. So all your contributions help, and if you'd like to contribute, there's a page on GoFundMe. Let's build a warp drive, and you can go to the GoFundMe page right here. I'll post that in the live chat so people can check that out. What else did you guys need links to? Anything? So quantum radar is cool. I know I brought that up, and kind of it's in one of these windows and it keeps coming up. I want to talk about quantum radar. Is interesting. It's based on quantum entanglement, which is a whole new, really awesome field of physics that's coming out now. But quantum entanglement allows you to check photons, so you know if someone's jamming you with and causing interference, you can tell right away. Or using an invisibility cloak, you can tell because your photons will come back non-entangled or disentangled, because they'll have lost their entanglement because they were interacted with something else. So you basically keep a bunch of entangled photons on your side and you store them somewhere, and then you send the other entangled photon pairs out as your radar signal, and then you see what comes back. And that's the kind of the basis behind how it works. But this is what they could use to essentially see UFOs, or if you want to call them UAP. I try to keep the term UFO because it just more old school, and it gives people context of what they're talking about rather than changing the language. It's kind of like I kind of think it's like they're doing that as part of this newspeak thing, and I've had discussions on this with people about the terminology, what we want to call them, and the UFO does have some bad stigma to it. And I mean, UAP is a more scientific term, but it's still like, let's not ditch the term altogether, because maybe I don't know. There's so much crazy. The more I study UFOs and ufology, though, it's like so many fakes and so many hoaxers and so many liars and con men in the field, and like the whole elite group that runs the whole of all of ufology and controls things at the top. They're all like this tight-knit group, and I'm pretty sure they're all disinformation agents that are paid off, and it's the old crew needs to sadly move a step aside and make room for the new crew that are really doing this field a huge service. So oh, hey, a rough day at the office. I had a very productive very productive day, actually, but it's all right. I got a lot done today at work, and I'm going back to work tomorrow. So math. Yeah, you got to do lots of homework for maths, dude. So lots of free time helps, and it would be helpful if you got like games that you could kind of do math or do. I don't know. It's hard to do math on your you gotta like substitute your video games for math. So instead of playing Fortnite, you gotta just drill calculus. You know. All right. What do I need to know for calculus? Oh, okay. Let's remember how to do a derivative. You know, how to do a how do we do a derivative? Oh, we do that formula thing there. Yeah. No, but anyways, you just drill them, drill derivatives, drill integrals. Learn how to do chain rule. That's when you're, you know, you can do substitution and stuff. There's lots of tricks with math, though. It really helps to learn math from somebody who, you know, then it's hard to learn math by yourself without like a teacher or a guider to really like someone to guide you. But they do a pretty good job on those sites that I went over before if you want to educate yourself on some of this stuff. So you know, get learning. Wikipedia is a good source too, because I mean it's like there's a lot of science information. It's well written by people who understand the science. You know that wrote that wrote these pages. And they're checked by other, you know, smart people in the academia that check that stuff. You know, it's not just some crazy person out there, you know, saying that they got alien material and stuff. Anyways, yeah, I really hope they have alien material. That would be awesome. But you know, I'm not counting on it with the actions that they've done. It just makes no sense why they would give that material to the U.S. Army. Apparently, it came from Roswell originally too. This is Roswell material, which the U.S. Army airfield at Roswell, before the Air Force was created. Air Force was created right after Roswell, like literally a couple of months, and it doesn't make sense why you would take that material and then give it back to the U.S. Army. Like if they're the ones who covered it up and hid it in the first place, so shouldn't they already have a whole bunch of this sitting in a hangar somewhere or secret? Did it get whisked away? Did it disappear? What happened to it? Did it go to NASA? Did it go to, you know, some other, you know, who knows? There's all this speculation and all this stuff in the field, and there's very little evidence and the way of that, and it's very even more difficult to do real science when that evidence, you know, doesn't go to scientific people. It goes to all these people. You know, there's some science people in the UFO community that it went to, you know, but it didn't go to like MIT. It didn't go to Harvard. It didn't go to like these hardcore, you know, science universities or something. And it's just like, why not? Because it's probably fake. It's probably not real. If they had the real deal, they'd be, you know, if you had the real deal, you'd be showing it off, and you'd be showing it to the right people, and especially the credentials that Hal has, and between them, he should have done the research and before telling her that, well, we need to give it to the Army because we can't produce terahertz, you know, lasers or terahertz generation. Well, did you check the literature? Because I did. It took me a couple seconds, a little bit of search just before I put this video live stream together, just to find this stuff, and now I can go and talk about it. But yeah, maybe we'll interview some of the people who did this research and wrote these papers and get them to educate us even more about the real, like, what's going on, you know, and how they did this, and maybe I can go to their lab and check it out too. That would be even cooler. So this is all going to be coming in the future. This is what I want to work up towards with this channel, if it ends up going anywhere and doing anything. If I don't just say to hell with it all and drop out of this game and let people go back in the dark about all this stuff. But it just aggravates me when, you know, she goes on there and says all this stuff about science that isn't true, and doesn't link people to the stuff that they need to learn about and do. You know what I mean? Yeah, Markov chain homework. Yeah, definitely. Markov chains are really cool. So yeah, there's some tainted people in this chat, and I'm gonna hide that user. He's just being disruptive troll. Lordship Dickworm. Yeah, okay. You're here to engage and add to the discussion, sir. Thank you. Yeah. What would one need to learn to understand polaritons? Okay, yeah. So let's talk more about polaritons and some of the science of polaritons. That's good. So basically, you can read the whole thing on them on on here. There's a whole list of studies and stuff on Nature too, Nature Polaritons, where you can start reading up on some of the studies and some of the research that is done. But a polariton, essentially, it's like the vacuum is made out of particle-antiparticle pairs, and it's just about polarizing the vacuum so strongly that you produce these polarized pairs out of the vacuum. So the exciton-polariton condensates. Really cool stuff to learn on exciton-polariton condensate. So an exciton is like you electronically excite something, or stimulate it electrically or electronically, like with a laser or with a frequency generator or something. And what the excitons do is that they actually it's like energy that's transferring from electrical wave impulses, which polarize the vacuum so strongly that they produce the energy from the wave impulses goes into temporarily creating particle-antiparticle pairs, or electron-positron pair, and then the electron-positron pair annihilate, but they annihilate in a coherent mode, so that it's not just random annihilation with random scattering of the electrons as photons. They're actually the photons absorbed into a lattice structure, or this sort of polariton condensate type fluid, and it's instead as a phonon. It's not emitted as the energy is not emitted as photons. It's emitted as phonons, or lattice vibrations, which in turn vibrate other systems within, like a matrix, and would produce more of these states, essentially. So you can look up some videos. There's some videos if you want to look up stuff on exciton-polariton pairs and condensates. There's some interesting videos that will kind of give you a beginner insight into what they are, without having to learn the math to be able to dig into the real physics of the science behind it. But it'll give you some visual explanations of kind of what's going on. But it's basically you see all these diagrams of them, what it shows, and it's basically showing this cavity, this really small resonant cavity, where they're pumping it with electronic wave, electromagnetic radiation, which is causing this polariton exciton pair, this positron electron pair, to form out of the vacuum. And then when it decoheres and goes back to vacuum, the energy goes back to electromagnetic waves, or excitons rather. I don't know what the difference between an exciton and an electromagnetic wave. So basically, it's like a bound state of an electron in an electron hole, which are attracted to each other by electrostatic Coulomb force. And it's electrostatically neutral quasi-particle that exists in insulators, semiconductors, and some liquids. So it's basically it's like a glass, and when the light comes and hits the glass, the electromagnetic radiation or photons come and hit the glass. They create this they create an excited state inside the glass. And it's kind of how glass actually works, because it creates this excited state inside the light that actually hits the glass creates an excited state inside the glass, which the glass just happens on the frequency of visible light. That there happens to be a coherence or a sort of condensed system that allows the light the radiation to travel through the glass coherently, which allows it to be transparent. That's the actual phenomenon is due to the fact that glass is a dielectric, and the dielectric it's kind of similar to this. It's not exactly this, because it's just a dielectric that's becoming polarized. So you polarize in it's essentially like you're polarizing a dielectric, but when you get to this exciton state, you're polarizing it so strongly that it actually produces these excitations of the vacuum, where it pulls pairs and antiparticle pairs out of the vacuum, which is really interesting science that none of these people in TTSA or Linda Moulton Howe are talking about or even aware of, and it's crazy because they need to wake up. I tried approaching Linda and telling her I had information and showing her some of this stuff, but it just went right over her head at Alien Con in LA. She's just not on my level when it comes to this stuff. Of course, it's hard to tell who's who, you know, because you get some people up there saying some crazy stuff and that you don't understand, and it's just like, yeah, sure. So I understand how it is. I have a lot of people that come to me with some crazy stuff sometimes, and sometimes I'm like, all right, is this dude for real? Is this some bullshit? And then it takes me a while, and then eventually I'll be like, all right, this is cool, you know. Sometimes I come around, sometimes I'm like, you know, I'm just not sure, and I have other stuff that I'm interested in looking at. So it's not something that's high on my priority until I've thoroughly gone through this stuff and really debunked and vetted and, you know, skeptified it. But anyways, yeah, we gotta see any other questions. Blah, 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 blah. What level of math is required? Well, you probably would take 4 years of, oh wait, that's an older question. But an older 4 years of, like, 4 years of college math would be good, you know. A year, a semester of calculus 1, semester of calculus 2, semester of calculus 3, then a semester of differential equations. That's what I did for my core math for physics. So I'm tired, man, but I'm in the zone, man, when we talk about this stuff, because I know what's up with it. But it's electron hole pairs, yes, mainly due to nonlinear optics they enable. Very interesting. Quasi-materials can function as quantum computers. So I don't know. Yeah, linear algebra too. I took that's another great course so linear algebra helps you learn about matrices and how to do matrix math and dimensions. Essentially, it's things that are linearly independent, which are dimensions are linearly independent. So it's understanding, if you want to understand dimensions, and this is a precursor to, well, then you really got to learn vector calculus too. I have a book called Div, Grad, and Curl, where you just drill problems doing divergence, gradients, and curls, which are advanced calculus. They're vector calculus operations. So you need to know how to do derivatives and all that basic stuff first, and then it's just longer versions of derivatives in 3 dimensions. You know, it's kind of what this vector calculus is about. And then you understand that vectors are just an extension of that. Scalars are just regular numbers, which are scalars, are tensor rank 0. Tensors rank 1 are actually vectors, and then all these things, these number systems, are actually tensors, or can be represented as tensors. A lot of times they don't need to be because they're scalars or vectors. They're easier to represent as scalars or vectors, but everything is tensors essentially. Is what you build up to and learn. And a tensor is kind of like vector calculus and linear algebra and together. It's like really crazy stuff, and that's what Einstein's general relativity theory of general relativity is all tensor calculus. To understand that. So yeah, lots of stuff. Oh, dude, yeah. I met Joseph Farrell. I know Joseph Farrell. I just seen the live chat. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He's kind of gone off the deep end with some of the stuff that he talks about, and some of the people he's into. He's got a degree in like theology or something, he said, and he's really into really weird German polka music. That's like what he likes to listen to. Interesting guy. Yeah, he got really went off the deep end with that DEW wildfires. You know, all the wildfires in California being the result of directed energy weapons, and I was just like, this is like silly because all this other stuff. So metamaterials, ooh. I didn't see this, but he's got a new thing on metamaterials up. I have to read that. Optical and sonic invisibility. Yep, I've been talking about this for a while. So there's tons of papers and research that's been done on this, optical and sonic metamaterials. Of course, you don't need metamaterials to create invisibility cloaks, and in fact, metamaterials aren't super good for creating invisibility cloaks because of that whole terahertz frequency range cutoff thing. If you read up on so metamaterials overview in science, it's on my list of studies. Where's my? Oh man. So there's a you can read some of the stuff on metamaterials, but I had a good link on my Hover Brothers website. By the way, if you go to hoverbrothers.com, there we go, theory. The theory page on hoverbrothers.com, I have a whole list of all, like, I'm growing a list of all, like, these aerospace studies. I'm going to have more stuff I'm adding soon that Jeremiah gave me. And I'm going to put downloadable copies and backups of a lot of the stuff in case it gets pulled or disappears, as stuff like this does sometimes. But I'll post that again here for people so we can continue to add to this list of theory and also real studies, and you know, both theoretical and experimental, and where they overcross. But metamaterials, this is a good one. So yeah, I'll post this in the thing if you want to read up on metamaterials and really learn about metamaterials. There's a good part on here if you go down about talking about the terahertz range and what's up with terahertz, the first metamaterials, artificial metamaterials, and then negative index metamaterials, which are the ones that they're talking about. They're negative index materials, and they're on the range of terahertz frequencies, which is interesting. So there's a whole thing about the cutoff range and why there's this cutoff range at for refraction at the higher frequencies. But oh yeah, frequency selective surfaces. Yeah, I talked about that, like photonic band gap materials, and but yeah, this is a good primer for a lot of good base information on just the science of metamaterials. Well-known stuff. A lot of people in science are learning about this cool new field of science, and it's definitely alien technology, or as close to it as we're ever going to get. I mean, as far as what we're understanding, what we understand as alien technology. And I like to talk about a lecture that Richard Feynman gave called "There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom." It's a really interesting lecture on miniaturization and nanotechnology, and he talks about that micrometer wavelength, micrometer scale, and the terahertz range, and why that's so important for why that's like basically the nanotech realm. Why there's the cutoff there. Everything above that's microtech, within nanotechs, everything below there, building stuff below there, smaller material, building things atom by atom. Essentially, you can't build anything better than atom by atom. So everyone talk about like, oh, alien technology would be so crazy advanced that none of our scientists, and how could our normal scientists understand it and with their science? And it's like, well, dude, we understand a lot about atoms and the physics of them, how they work, and if we can 3D print atom by atom and build things atom by atom, this is the forefront of physics. This is it. But this is where the overlap happens between general relativity and quantum mechanics. It's all in this stuff, and it's going to be amazing, man, once this hits and once this happens. But yeah, these guys are interesting. That they get onto some of this stuff, but I mean, his Nazi Bell thing. I'm going to do a whole. I kind of want to talk about that too, because Farrell wrote the whole Nazi Bell thing, right? He wrote the book on the bell, and all that stuff was based on Igor Witkowski's work. And I was trying to ask him, well, did you search any of this down and get more of the scientists and the names? He's like, oh, well, they're all in the book, you know. And I read the book, and I didn't get much from there that I could, anything good that I could really research or look up, because I'd be interested in who the scientists were connected with this program, if it, was real and existed, and what did they publish on, what were they publishing on, what were their curriculum vitae. That's what I'm most interested in as a scientist, if this is real. But Igor Sikorsky, Igor Witkowski, this guy, he's the guy that originated the Nazi Bell story from Poland, and he said that an anonymous intelligence source came to him with the story in 1997. And that's interesting, because an anonymous intelligence source also came to Ed Fouché in 1997 and told him about the TR-3B flying triangle and this mercury-based plasma propulsion system, which I've talked about and kind of like gone through the physics of like why this sounds like an interesting idea enough, but I don't know where the physics lies of how it would actually work, or if it's a real thing, or if this was kind of I'm still interested in doing some experiments with rotating mercury and rotating plasmas and stuff. I think it's still interesting in field, and maybe there, but there's nothing in the scientific literature that reports anything like anomalous with this, except for the Podkletnov experiment and the Podkletnov stuff, which was vaguely similar to the supercooled superconducting disk rotating that produces some anomalous effects. And that they've done a lot of experiments into that and traced it down to spin polarization and spintronics, or spin, which is quantum entanglement. So it's another kind of thing, another trick of quantum entanglement, if it is real and if it does work. It's also possible that this story, because the sources both came in 1997 to two different people, kind of unrelated, that maybe this was leaked either or spread as disinformation on purpose. That's always go back and forth with what Ed's role was in all this, and some of the information he's provided, which hasn't been verified and backed up, like mainly the TR-3B stuff. So, but anyways, yeah, the TR-3B stuff, Ed was one of the first people to talk about metamaterials and quasicrystals, though, and he did that back in 1998, and he really did work at Area 51. He was a real employee out there, but I don't know who he got this information from, and kind of what was behind it, if it's real, or if it, obviously the things he said, 60,000 atmospheres, or 60,000 RPMs and 250,000 atmospheres. It's just ridiculous. There's nothing, no pressure or unit could ever contain that. I don't care what it's made of or how strong it is, that for that diameter and 200-foot diameter disc, whatever he said, for this thing to work. It just wouldn't be able to hold that high of a pressure and that high of a rotation. It doesn't make sense. And then I had talked about how we rotate the fluid. I guess mercury, it's magnetic already and it rotates already. Someone did that experiment. I had hypothesized, making it a ferrofluid, but then if it's a superfluid, it can't be also a ferrofluid, because superfluids expel all the magnetic fields. So it can't have ferrofluid activities if you're not doing anything with magnetic fields. You're expelling them all through superconductivity. But anyways, there's a couple issues with that whole issue and that propulsion system that I've addressed and talked about with in the past, and done a lot of research on, that I can talk about a lot more and tell you a lot more than people like, say Jordan Sather. Oh, he puts out these videos on anti-gravity, and I'm just like, dude. And he puts out these posts like, I was posting about bismuth freaking 2 years ago and this and that. I'm just like, dude, you do not know anything. You just think you're so full of yourself, and you think you know what's going on, but you don't do real research, and you don't have a clue. You don't have a physics degree. You don't have a math background. But it is interesting to see all the things you post. So I think he blocked me. Yeah, he blocked me on Twitter, so I can't see him on Twitter anymore because I just hammer him with information constantly. This truth warrior, spiritual gangster. I've hammered him with information which he's just immune to, and refuses to see, and then calls me an idiot and makes like these videos talking about anti-gravity. And I just laugh when I watch him talking about TR3B stuff from just these crazy sources and no context or stuff on it. But anyways, I'm not enough on what other people are doing. What I've been doing is just trying to get real science behind this and what's been going on. And one of the coolest things that are on my list of where's my Howard Brothers page? To close it. The Howard Brothers theory page. There's some stuff on the Podklanov experiment, which we're going to go to. I believe we're going to try to reach out to the people who still have the equipment at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, and try to get them to perform this experiment for our cameras, and so we can kind of like revisit it and see what's up with it. And I have a bunch of rare photos of that. I'll have that one rare photo, but I got some stuff on this, interesting stuff. But the rotating superconductors, there's been a lot of research into it. NASA dumped $500,000 into it, and then Boeing had a Project Grasp, and then Dr. Robert Evans with Project Green Glow. So there's been a lot of interesting research done by military and government, NASA, and aerospace corporations on this possible anti-gravity effect and device, and we'll be looking more into that and talking more about that as we reach out to more of these scientists and talk to them, and we're going to piece this thing together. TTSA is doing a absolutely horrible, terrible job of disclosure and really putting pieces together for the public, and that's why I do what I do. So in any case, I'm glad you guys are tuning in. You can see what's up, and that I don't charge people money and put like good information behind a paywall. Everything's out there to the public for people to see, dude. I'm not like Linda Moulton Howe, like ripping people off for fake stories, and she's sold so much fake stuff over the years. I can't get excited and behind this. I'm sorry. Like, call me a freaking a cynic, but like, how can I get behind TTSA and what they've done with it, especially once they gave that material back to the U.S. Army? I was like, all right, this is over, dude. It's over. Like, nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. There's literally been nothing to see here for 2 years except friggin', hey guys, we got something, we got something, we got something. Give us money, give us money, give us money, and nothing, dude. Nothing. This little bit of stuff that they have put out, they've taken down. Like that whole. He gave that. Hal Puhoff gave that talk to the Academy of Sciences lecture. He gave this lecture to IRVA SSE. Yeah, that's what it is, the IRVA SSE lecture. And there was a couple things he talked about. The only key real paper or science he mentioned in that whole talk was that Terahertz metamaterial, left-handed metamaterial paper by Victor Podolsky. So yeah, strongly anisotropic media. This is the paper. I'll post that again in the chat for people to see. But this paper talks about terahertz frequencies and left-handed metamaterials. And yeah, this was from 2005. So there's been research going on into this for over a decade, in the white world, not in the black world either, but this is the one that Hal Puhoff referenced. which is, let me just go through this again and research and revisit this. So it talks about these, a metal and a metal with a dielectric between them. So it's like a mirror with a piece of glass between them. And they use wave propagation in these non-magnetic LHMs, which aren't Linda Moulton Howe's. They're LHMs, not LMHs. Left-handed metamaterials is what that stands for. So sorry, I thought I heard someone screaming outside in dire help, but they're just partying. And I'm partying too. This is how I party on Friday night, man. I'm not even drinking beer tonight. I'm just on too much of a roll with this stuff after watching that live stream and all the stuff that she said. I'm like, come on now. Come on, this is why they gave the material to TTS. TTSA gave this metamaterial. Hal Puhoff said, we can't generate terahertz waves. We don't have the equipment or the labs, or no one in the white world does. So we need to give this to the black world. Give this back to the Army. This is why. This is why we need to give it back to the Army, because we don't have terahertz frequency generation capability, even though I didn't check the scientific literature to see if that was true. And John Greenwald probably didn't know enough about this, or to call her out on that at the time, right on the spot. But I hope that and he also said, I hope other people dig into this and start really getting the science and learning more about it and talking more about it. So I'm hoping that I've given you guys some key stuff. There's more than enough key stuff. I mean, if I could talk about any one of these things and I probably should do videos and talk about these things in much more detail, but I've given you enough that you can research some stuff on your own and come to some very interesting conclusions if you pay attention and you understand what you're looking at. So hopefully you do so. And again, interesting that there's just layers of misdirection and that I see in this that make me really not hopeful of what this group is and what they're doing. And it's sad watching these people in the forefront of ufology get so much attention, like George Knapp and Linda Moulton Howe, who promote like crap science and junk, like Bob Lazar, for example. Bob Lazar, who is a fraud pimp, former pimp who ran a brothel in Las Vegas. That's how he met John Lear and Gene Huff, apparently. You do the research. Might have killed his, I don't know. There's some issues going on with his ex-wife there, and what that whole history, and Carol Strong, and like maybe she did kill herself. But he married someone else like 2 days later, 3 days later. It's crazy, man. Anyways, I don't want to get into the Bob Lazar stuff, man. It's just a waste of freaking time. The only thing I have to say about Bob Lazar, and this is my final statement and argument, not on the matter, if I could just sum it up in one word: unobtainium. It's basically, if you create a hoax, if you want to hoax people, you say, I have a magic thing, but it's just got to be something that's unobtainable to science, or just scientifically out the realm of what we can actually reach or build or have. And that's it, unobtainium, man. There's so many things that you can think of in science or create in science, or what we call science fiction, really, that nobody can ever prove you wrong. It's like you can make a claim, a scientific claim, and nobody will ever be able to prove you wrong. Of course, you don't need to. They don't need to prove you wrong. You need to prove yourself right in order to be vindicated. It's not about not being proved wrong. That's the fallacy of argument from ignorance. If you want to look that up, but it's a logical fallacy called argument from ignorance. But anyways, unobtainium. It's the perfect con man tool or disinfo thing, the element 115 stuff, which I've proven that Bob Lazar copied directly from, he copied that directly from the May 1989 issue of Scientific American. And I have that right here. I can open up for you and show you, but it's very revealing when you see that whole thing about element 114 and the 184 neutrons. That was the number Bob gave to Jim Goodall, and the number 298. You know, all these numbers came from that article. The hand scanners that Jeremy Corbell had a fit and made such a big deal about, that were actually in that movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. If you watch it, been around since well before the 80s. Anyways, and then all the stuff that, you know, I'm glad that John Greenwald said he was skeptical of Philip Corso too, and I talked about Philip Corso and some of the stuff that Philip Corso said. And then it's interesting that Linda's tying him now into all this stuff posthumously that I don't know how we can confirm. But that was another interesting thing I noted from the from listening in on that. And but again, yeah, terahertz frequencies, you can generate them. You just need polaritons, which is the key to all this science that for some reason TTSA and none of these people in the UFO mafia are telling us about. Very strange. Very, very strange how there's so much rich science with just a couple keywords that change everything, and nobody talks about it, including people like this newcomer on the scene. This guy, Deep Prasad. Anyone heard of this friggin' clown before? I've argued he believes in Bob Lazar. I had numerous arguments with this kid about Bob Lazar, but he's completely full of himself. This kid, you know, he makes all these posts on Twitter like, oh, I got some reporter shared some secret information with me about an anti-gravity study, and you know, like I'm vetting it now, and I'll let you know the details once I've, you know, completed it. And he won't, and then it just disappears. He doesn't talk about it, or he comes out and says, oh, well, it was bunk, and I've come to determine that wasn't right. And but like I asked him for to look at my list, right? I want to show people this because I asked him to look at my friggin' list. I asked this dude to look at my list of all the studies and tell me, am I missing anything? You know, I'm not sure if you've seen this yet, but I'll appreciate any input you can help our offers in expanding or refining this list. And I'm like, all right, well, he didn't respond to me for like a week. And I'm like, all right, well, what's up, dude? Obviously, like, you don't want to help out. You're not here to offer information or like share with the community, you know? And he's like, oh, hey, man, I'm not at all. I'm just really busy with the startup stuff. I want to go through the math and physics in detail before commenting. I'm sure you appreciate that more than my first past response. And I'm like, no, this is like, I asked you for a historical timeline, and you know, I asked you for input. You know, you're saying you're getting stuff sent to you by reporters that maybe you have something I don't, but you won't share it with the community. You won't have open discussions on this stuff, and yet you have a freaking ton of followers. I don't get, like, this kid came out of nowhere, got a whole bunch of articles written on him, and like all these big publications and stuff, right? Had all these articles written about him and got like a ton of people following him and looking at him, but then, like, I don't understand how people like can get so big and popular out of nowhere. But then I show him all this polariton stuff and nothing. There's just dead silence. The kid just like won't. He's apparently a quantum physicist who does quantum computing, and he's really into the physics, but he don't want to talk about polaritons. You don't want to share information with the community, dude. And I get fucking pissed at people like that. I don't like people like that. I get very skeptical and about fucking shady fucks like that go and call me a disinformation agent on Twitter and won't share any of the important physics stuff that I post. Any of the stuff that he only shares posts of mine that can make me look bad. He's shared numerous things that I posted to try and make me look bad. This dude's a fuck. Fuck him. Fuck that fucking deep motherfucker. In any case, sorry. Yeah. Deep Persuade. That's what I call him, Deep Persuade, because he's literally a disinformation agent working for TTSA. He's a put-off friggin' fanboy and a Lazar fanboy who's just, you know, sharing all kinds of crap with people. No, don't want to share nothing discussion with the friggin' community. And I ask him for like, oh, can you help add to a historical list? And he thinks I'm asking him for help with theory. Like I don't have 50 fucking PhDs who follow my shit on here. You motherfucker. Salty. Sorry, man. I get passionate about this. Because these people are fucks, dude. They're misleading people, and then calling me a disinformation agent, and then Twitter's rigged. So like, I swear, like the stuff like that shouldn't be getting exposure gets way too much exposure, and then stuff that should be getting exposure goes into a black hole where nobody sees it or likes it. It's yeah, bro. I'm fucking pissed, dude. It's like you're watching a cover-up take place right before you. You know the truth. You're trying to share it with people, and then you're just watching all these pieces of shit come in from the fucking side, like gather all the attention and just shovel shit in people's face. Like just shovel them with bullshit. That's interesting and keeps their. It's more entertaining and to these short attention span people that can't understand real like advanced stuff. They see this, so they're just like onto it. And it's cool he's educating people on you know, quantum computers and stuff, and trying to like pretend like he's this, you know, big expert on all that stuff. But dude, there's plenty of other people talking about quantum computing and experts and videos and other things I can learn a lot more from than I watched some of your stuff, man, and I'm just like, no, sorry, I like. You're not posting like mad papers. You're not posting like mad like science and having any, or even engaging in the discussions on my Twitter profile when I talk about stuff like that. But when I make a comment about Linda Moulton Howe, who there was a rumor in ufology about Linda Moulton Howe dating Bob Bigelow back in the day, because you know they have a connection. That 1993. Meeting, you know, that they were all at. This picture I posted and got a lot of attention on Twitter, but more people focused on the fact that I said that, you know, there's a rumor in ufology that, you know, Linda Moulton Howe was you know, a mistress for Bob Bigelow, that, you know, Bob Bigelow has problems with his wife, and that he was having an affair with Linda Moulton Howe. And I had all these feminists and people from California come and attack me on Twitter because Deep shared my friggin' post about that. And it was just, oh my God, it was insanity, dude. No, like people who just have shit to throw and shovel shit at you for like saying, you know, you have no proof that they were dating or romantically involved. No, other than the fact that he paid her fucking rent for over a decade so she could study cattle mutilations. No, I mean, why would he just pay her rent? And like, you know, why are they hugging so close in this picture? And why are there these rumors that I've heard from many different people close to them? I don't know. But anyways, it's besides the point. Even if she didn't have a romantic relationship with him, she's still related. She's still connected with him back then, with a lot of interesting people like Lawrence Rockefeller, Stephen Greer, John Mack, and a lot of interesting folks that, you know, these people are pushing the alien hypothesis and this alien stuff super hard. And is there a deeper hidden agenda behind it? I don't know, but that's really what I think is more important than people focusing on, you know, or calling me a sexist for making, you know, insinuations that they had an affair, that she was his mistress and whatnot, dude. Like, who cares, bro? Like, and I flip out on people who are going to accuse me of stuff, and I get upset, man. It's just these people troll me and stuff, and it's like not cool, because you have nothing to fucking add scientifically to the discussion. You have nothing technical to offer this discussion. All you have is bullshit. Like, so fuck off, dude. I block people like that, and I don't want them to follow me, because really, honestly, these people don't deserve what I have to show them. They don't deserve it. And I don't know, maybe someone will send this to Linda Moulton Howe, and so she can fucking ignore it and not talk about stuff like that's important, you know? Watch. I hope people do. I hope people send it to this UFO mafia that are controlling these people are disinformation. They work for the government. You know, you look at it behind the scenes, man. It just it doesn't make sense any other fucking way, dude. Just think about it. They gave that material back to the U.S. Army. Like everything about this just looks like, you know, how could we, you know, it's like the U.S. Army saying, oh, we get the intelligence, all right, this stuff's coming out, you know, like how can we release this to the public that we have this UFO like that crashed in Roswell without really releasing it to the public? Oh, well, we'll just give it to this UFO group of disinformation agents so they can give it back to us. Or maybe it's just a play that they don't really have anything at all and they're just selling more bullshit like her friggin' Dragonfly UFOs or that Area 51 alien from the video game Area 51 that she was charging people behind her paywall to get to so they could see a picture of a fake alien from a video game. I mean, it's sad, but like I don't have much faith in people like this with the stuff that they're putting out and the way that they're marring up like stuff that has real science behind it. It's very concerning to me, you know, like please like blow up her freaking feeds or blow up these people with polaritons, just and annihilate them with talk about polaritons and polariton condensates and the fact that they can form room temperature superfluids and superconductors with these polariton condensates, and that there's tons of disinformation out there talking about all this, you know, all that, oh, they create room temperature superconductors with this other type of quartz crystal, right? That was the patent, that Salvatore Pais patent on the room temperature superconductor. And it's a freaking, the Navy filed this patent for a room temperature superconductor, and this isn't the real shit. It's like, this is disinformation. It's not how that works. It's polaritons, and it says nothing about polaritons or anything about the real science and of how to create room temperature superconductors. It's bullshit. I don't know. It's just, it's kind of weird, to be honest. I don't know what's going on with it, and I've been talking about this stuff for almost a year now, and nobody's listening. And I was talking about, I mean, I was saying a lot of this stuff for a while now, and it's just crazy how they're so far behind, but everyone thinks that they're the forefront and they're so far ahead on this shit. It's just ridiculous. But anyways, I don't know. I would imagine the government definitely has stuff. If they have this kind of money and they put this, they definitely have something. But maybe we are really like not as far along as some people really think. That's what I'm beginning to think more and more, is that even the people in the government, it's so compartmentalized, they haven't been able to do much with this, and it just really hasn't gotten to the level that people think it's at. It just hasn't. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm beginning to think more and more that they're still like learning and developing it now. Of course, maybe that's what they want us to think, and what with this whole, you know, the U.S. Army just becoming interested in it now. But it's kind of hard to believe that with the minds that are out there and the money that they have access to, that they didn't figure this out already like a decade or more ago. But again, maybe the scientists did that. The mainstream science and the white world just hadn't caught up yet. And again, this stuff, maybe I'll give Hal Puhoff the benefit of the doubt that he's not caught up, because he hasn't, you know, this papers came out in April 2019. They're kind of recent, so maybe he hasn't seen these things yet or been aware of them. But in any case, yeah, very interesting stuff, and I just want to end on that note. Yeah, I mean, why would the Army mess with Tom DeLonge? Just think about this. Wake up. Yeah, it just doesn't make any fucking sense, dude. It doesn't. And then the TTSA comes out and they promote friggin' the Bob Lazar stuff and all this other stuff, man. It's just jeez. yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna end this right now, and I'll read some comments, and we'll get back to you guys on some stuff. And again, we're setting up. I want to set up more scientists and labs to be able to do more research and more studies, and talk to more scientists in the future on this, because definitely interesting stuff that's going on. And Tanya, I'm sorry, your meteorite was just a piece of slag. It's just it's too bad. It's your loss, you know, because it would have been cool, but it's not. It's just a piece of slag, and it's not a meteorite. It doesn't have a Widmerstatin pattern. But anyways, and there's a number of other things too, the isotopic tests and stuff. But anyways, it's whatever. You're a psycho, and I don't want to deal with you anymore because you're crazy. But anyways, take care. Have a good night. I don't like dealing with people that are just make it very difficult to deal with, you know. So it's just whatever. Especially when I send them money, and I do like $1,000 tests for them for free, you know. So whatever. Later, guys.